And welcome in, everyone. Quick race recap episode here at Historic Hot Laps. Good weekend of NASCAR racing, some open wheel stuff, a couple things we want to cover. Right out of the gate, we just need to talk about it, some sad stuff. We talk a lot about, racing as a whole, and that includes some drag racing stuff. I'm sure a lot of you have already heard. We lost Lizzie Musey from the drag racing community last week. She's been battling some things, breast cancer, spread to other things going on. Anybody who's seen the show Street Outlaws or No Prep Kings or followed any kind of drag racing probably knew she is the daughter of Pat Musey, legendary engine builder. So with that, it's just a sad thing. It's kind of tough to talk about. Not a lot can be said, the loss of a life. But I'd like to take the time, kind of honor her for a minute and just cover what the family put out in her obituary. Her funeral is actually tomorrow in Mooresville. Everybody familiar with the NASCAR world knows where that is. But yeah, here we go on the obituary. It says, Elizabeth Lizzie Musey, 33, of Statesville, North Carolina, passed away surrounded by family on June 28, 2024. She grew up in Carteret, New Jersey, and graduated from Carteret High School. From a very early age, Lizzie was introduced to the world of drag racing, being the daughter of legendary engine builder and professional race car driver Pat Musey. Attending all the races of her father's career, Lizzie grew a passion for the sport. By 8 years old, she was driving her own junior dragster. As years went on, she began racing PDRA Top Sportsman. She then moved into PDRA Pro Nitrous, stepping into Frank Brandau's national event-winning Dodge Dart and becoming the first woman to win a Pro Nitrous race. Afterwards, Lizzie became an international star, racing on the Street Outlaws No Prep Kings TV series, where she was the first woman to win an NPK race and first person to win 3 NPK events in a row, male or female. Lizzie had an affection for animals and had many pets throughout her life. She is also a talented artist. And then talks about her service, which you can look it up. They're going to do a service where you can stream it. I'm sure there'll be a lot of the drag racing community there, but doing some speeches, talking about some stuff. So with that, sad deal, loss of life, but thoughts are with the family, and she'll be remembered as one of the best. Moving on to another drag racing subject, it's been all over the news that John Force had that terrible crash. Chutes didn't open, hit the wall at 300 plus miles an hour, had a lot of shock to the body. I mean, the guy's 75 years old. Also, there was another report sent out by the family from his update on his health journey back after that crash. So I'll read that report now from the official statement from the NHRA. After 5 tense days, during which he was heavily sedated while battling the effects of injuries suffered in a 300-mile-an-hour crash of his drag racing funny car, 16-time NHRA world champion John Force has begun to show daily signs of improvement. According to family members who have maintained a presence at the trauma hospital to which he was transported by air on Sunday, early in the treatment process of his traumatic brain injury, he failed to follow a series of commands to open his eyes, squeeze hands of his care providers, and move extremities. Occasionally he was able to respond with slight movements, but it wasn't until he moved from trauma intensive care into the neuro intensive care unit on Wednesday. This is all last week, by the way. On Wednesday that he began to gain some momentum. He became more consistent, responding to commands, and finally opened his eyes on day 5. Following days of failed attempts, his wife and daughters were overcome with emotion when he murmured his name, John Force, and later prompted giving a thumbs up. So, little bit of improvement there. It's good to see. It's going to be a long journey, I'm sure, for him and his family. We're wishing the best. He's a legend. The guy's wild. He's a good time. One of the most positive guys in drag racing, a legend of the sport. So if you do follow any drag racing stuff, there's a little bit to touch on there. As far as IndyCar goes for news this week, Dale Coyne announced Toby Sowery will debut in the number 151 entry at Mid-Ohio. Currently, he's IMSA LMP2 driver, so good all-around road course racer. So he will drive that number 51 for at least the road courses, I believe. I'm not sure beyond that. We'll see what they come up with from there. Looks like IMSA news. Meyershank has announced it will be back in IMSA. I know we talked about before with Tom Blomqvist being let go out of the IndyCar seat, but still on the payroll. There's a good opportunity there for the work he's done for Meyershank in the IMSA series, sports car series, and everything else. So it appears that they signed a multi-year deal with Acura Honda Racing to run 2 of the Acura Hybrid GTP cars in IMSA starting in 2025, multi-year deal. This was the contract that Wayne Taylor Racing and Andretti Global are currently running that comes to the end of this season. They're not renewing with Andretti. They're going with Meyer Shank. And I say Andretti, but it is Wayne Taylor Racing, primarily with Andretti support. I think a lot of that is due to just changing of the guard type deal, something new for them. Wayne Taylor Racing still has great results. I think it's just in best interest overall, and they can merge a little bit more from their Honda IndyCar hybrid stuff as well. So good package overall for Meyer Shank to keep running and welcome them back into the sports car series. As far as drivers go for that, they haven't announced anything, but obviously Tom Blomqvist would probably be up there, and most likely it's rumored that Colin Braun will be the alternate with Tom Blomqvist for one of the entries, and who knows, the second entry will be Sebastian Bourdais' contract with Ganassi's coming up at the end of this year. He's got some history with MSR racing, so he could be an option. There's a couple other good European drivers that they're looking at as well, so we'll just see how that all shakes up, but nice to see Meyer Shank back at it in the sports car series. Let's do some race recaps. So we had, we'll start with the open wheel dirt life, USAC National Sprints at Macon Speedway. Night 1, Mitchell Moles gets the feature win on that one, and night 2 went to Logan Seavey. So that's pretty good to see. I believe that was Mitchell Moles' first win of this season, if I remember right. I didn't take a lot of good notes on the USAC stuff. We had a longer NASCAR weekend, as we'll talk about here in a little bit. So trying to keep up on all the races has been a little bit of a challenge. But congrats to Mitchell Moles and Logan Seavey for their wins in the national sprints this last weekend. Lucas Oil Raceway. Actually, let's back up. Kubota High Limit Series, High Limit Sprints, the midweek series at Lake Ozark Speedway. Corey Day gets the win on that one. Midweek prize, $20K, which sounds pretty awesome to all of us, but $20K to those guys is not much. It's, some tires and some fuel, essentially. Looking at Lucas Oil Raceway, the Diamond Classic High Limit Sprints weekend, night 1, Friday night race. Tyler Courtney gets the win, goes from 9th all the way to the winner's circle. Congrats there. Night 2 had a couple of qualifiers, but rain came in, kind of ruined the night for everybody. Was called off for weather. So with that, there's a break for the 4th of July. No idea if they're going to do a makeup race. They say they are, but I don't know when they'll throw it in the schedule. So the next high limit race that's on the schedule right now is July 13th in Portsmouth Raceway. From there, let's cover the NASCAR weekend. You had trucks at Nashville. That was a good race. Very domination by one certain individual, Christian Eckes. Christian Eckes goes stage 1 win, stage 2 win, and then the actual overall win. Third race win of the season for Christian Eckes and that team. He's really carved a name for himself, so we'll see what that does for him to get him moving up the ladder over there. Pretty awesome to see overall. Xfinity in Nashville, Saturday, hot day. Ty Gibbs, stage 1 race win, led every single lap in stage 1 and started on the pole, so congrats to him there on that one. From there, John Hunter Nemechek kind of came out of the groundwork and made some stuff happen. Stage 2 win, John Hunter Nemechek, and and the race win, John Hunter Nemechek. So pretty awesome to see. And John Hunter Nemechek really pulling it together there in the last half. One thing I want to talk about, Jesse Love finished podium, got third place. He started in the very back of the pack, worked his way up to the top 10, got mixed up in the rear again, comes in the top 5. Working all the way through the field, and then ends up securing in third place. Just shy of 70 passes made by Jesse Love on Saturday in that excruciating heat they were dealing with in those cars. Those cars were 130 degrees on the inside, and he's just working himself to death in there, but made it happen. Got some good points out of the deal, and showed he's nothing to mess with there. So obviously Nashville, he's figuring that one out to make those kind of passes. Obviously had a good solid car to make that kind of traffic pass. So congrats to him. A little bit of Xfinity news while we're on the subject. It was just announced yesterday, actually. Joey Logano is going to drive the number 15 AM Racing Ford that Haley Deegan currently runs. He's going to take over that seat for the Chicago Street Race. Obviously, Logano's not going to go back and race for that team full time. They want to use Logano's Ford experience to try to help out with car setup, kind of figure out what's going on and what they need to update in their program. We'll see what happens with that. I do have a feeling if Logano goes in there with the same car they've been struggling with all season and makes something happen with it right away, they're going to reconsider the driver and not so much the car. So it's Deegan's rookie year in Xfinity. Not everybody can take off their rookie year and just make stuff happen. Hopefully that doesn't spell something bad for her, but we'll just see what comes of all that for Logano, trying to help them with their testing on that. So moving forward from there, let's talk about Sunday. Cup race, another hot day, a lot of anticipation for the heat and everything else is going on. And then we decided to add 30-something laps to the end of this race with 5 to be exact, overtimes. That's a new record for NASCAR in this whole overtime scenario of how they do these wins and the rules and everything else. So with that being said, Stage 1 goes to Christopher Bell. Stage 2 also went to Christopher Bell. Those Joe Gibbs cars were looking good. Him and Hamlin, Bell and Hamlin, they had what looked to be the best cars. I honestly think Hamlin was probably overall best, but Bell was right there with him, and Bell made some good decisions and got, passes done at the right time and whatnot. But Hamlin was strong the whole race as well. Overall, I think either one of those were who if I was going to put some money on it, it would be one of those two for sure. And then we went to the overtime and all the nonsense that went on with that. And Joey Logano ends up getting the win, securing himself in the playoffs with that race win. 5 overtimes, wrecks, fuel issues. Logano made it last. I think a lot of it that helped him is he was mid-pack all day. He was kind of in the slip. He was saving fuel. And then he just ended up front at the right time. I don't think he was the fastest car all weekend by any means. He was mid-pack at best. Most of those Fords were. Toyota seemed to really have Nashville figured out, and Chevy was right there with them. But with the Hendrick cars, you saw fuel become an issue with the extra laps. Chevrolet's running out of fuel first. Obviously, we saw Larson run out on a restart, causing another pile up. And then the Toyota started to fall off, and somehow Logano and his Ford made it happen. So good win for Penske. Team Penske over there in that organization gets them into the playoffs for sure. Overall, pretty awesome for them. Currently, what we're looking at for our playoff picture after Nashville, Larson locked in at number 1, Hamlin at number 2, Bell at number 3, Byron at number 4, Elliott at number 5, Reddick number 6, Blaney number 7, Keselowski number 8, Logano number 9, Suarez 10th place, Cindric number 11, Truex Jr. in 12th, Gibbs in 13th, Chastain in 14th, Buescher 15th, Bowman 16th. Then we have our cut line, obviously for the top 16 playoff spots. Wallace sits below that cut line at minus 51 points. Not out of the realm, but it's going to be a little bit of it's going to have to do some work. Briscoe minus 78 points, and KB Kyle Busch 19th at negative 104, so 104 points down to the cut line for Kyle Busch, which is rough. It's incredibly rough. Hate to see it. RCR is really struggling with that. They're a good team. We know they're a legendary team. Just got to figure out what's going on with him. He honestly had a pretty good day yesterday till that Chastain wreck right in front of him. He kept himself out of trouble the whole time, but sure enough, here we are. So that being said, we'll wrap up this episode and we'll see what happens next week. We've got races coming up and IndyCar, NASCAR weekend again, obviously dirt track every day pretty much. So lots of stuff to cover when we come back, and thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for sharing your time with us. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Don't forget to follow us at Historic Hot Laps on X and all your other social platforms for the latest updates and sneak peeks into upcoming episodes. You can reach out to us directly at historichotlaps@gmail.com. Send us your feedback, questions, comments, opinions, and additional subject matter you'd like us to cover. Thanks for tuning in.